Hari
Hari
Om.
Om. Welcome back to day 40 of Kindle Life. The number 40 in spirituality especially is very important. It is also called the Chalisa. From Ganesh Chaut to Shivratri, 40 days of tapa, 40 days of penance, 40 days of education, 40 days of upliftment. This is what 40 days say. And you and me together on this journey have done our Chalisa, and I'm sure that there will be prasad in the form of knowledge for us all. So what is it that we are doing in this chapter, in the third part of chapter number 30? Gurudev is giving his lecture, he's giving his speech to the people in the secretariat. And now he has pointed out to us through examples that when the situation warrants and when there is inspiration, we have tremendous amount of energy coming from within us. And we also find that once the source of that inspiration or ideal moves away, our energy gets dissipated, it disappears. Why so? It was within us, it is within us. Anytime we want it, it comes out. But why does it then go away? Why doesn't it remain constantly within us? And that is what we are trying to understand. Through examples further on and through clear explanation, we will see that there are three main forms of dissipation of energy. But before we get there, let us begin our session with prayers.
समस्त जन कल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ॐ. Shall we read further? So the last sentence of yesterday was, now what are these leakages? One of the main leakage is the memories of the past. A very good student decided that he must get a first class and he went on studying for it. But as the examination approached, he said, I will be satisfied with a class. I don't want this class. When asked what happened, he said, never did I get a first class in the past. How can such a man as myself ever get a first class? Thus, the memories of the past means, in the past I have always been an inefficient man. How can I be efficient officer now? Thus, the memories of the past come to disturb me and my enthusiasm to live a nice life hereafter. At last, actually that is at last, not at least.
Spelling error, it's
There is
not
a
at
spelling
least,
error.
it is at last.
At last always oozes away and I have no energy for any activity. So Gurudev pointed out three leakages. Leakage number 1 is the memories of the past. We read on. Another source of dissipation is anxieties for the future. A boy who has always been first class student wants to get in MA examination. He wants to get a rank in the university and the professors in his college are hopeful about him. The boy enters the examination hall rather pale face and the professors think that it is because of overstudy. When the question paper comes to him, he looks at it and snooze, means almost faints. The professor rushes to him. The boy says, give me some water. He is given water. He feels chakkar, reeling. And he wants to lie down. The professor is asking, what is the matter? The boy says, everything is lost. What has happened? Ask the professor. The reply is, how can I answer 14 questions even though I know their answers when there is no time? Where is the time? My first class rank, my first class rank, everything is gone. The professor says, fool, read again. The question paper. The fellow reads the question paper once again and says, 14 questions cannot be answered. Where is the time to answer all of them? At last, the professor must come and suggest a way out. In brackets, Gurudev is being a little sarcastic. Nowadays, the professor whispers into the ears of the students. In the good old days, it was not allowed. Nowadays, in independent India, everybody must be help the other man. So the professor tells the boy to read the line in the question paper, which is printed in italics. Answer any 3 questions.
Of course, it was not 14 questions. The anxiety got to him so much that in spite of being a great student, he was swooning and he didn't realize that he was supposed to answer only 3.
Because of his over anxiety to work and get a first class, the boy's efficiency is lost and he wants only to run away from the examination hall. Many a student generally fail in the examination not because he has not studied, but because of some such leakage in the dynamism, and his energy is dissipated and he becomes an empty man. Some of the students fail, although the entire university expected them to get a first class, while some of us pass, although nobody thought that we shall ever pass. We entered the examination with one certainty, that there is no chance of passing, and so we quietly wrote on, and thus there is some efficiency. The examiner thought, although the boy is rather backward, he is not too bad, and therefore he awards 35% of marks for us to pass through. Even such a person gets a third class while so and so fails. Because completely not writing anything, even if you may be the most smartest person in the class, but in the examination hall, you need to control your emotions, the anxiety of the past, and write on. People say that one is a lucky man and the other one is unlucky, and so on. Actually, there is no luck or ill luck. It all depends upon the mental equanimity with which you act in the world.
We've earlier seen in the chapter also that the challenges of a situation, it depends on you, how you face the challenges, and it has got certainly nothing to do with luck.
Today's reading is so important. Gurudev is giving the source of our success. If we use what Gurudev is saying, what Vedas have explained to us, every single time we will come out successful. Thus, the dissipation of our energy may take place either due to lingering memories of the past or due to anxieties of the future. 2.
We have seen in our lives also that these 2 factors trouble us constantly. Either we are talking about or thinking about what happened in the past and this happened and that I should have done this, I could have done that, but it didn't happen.
That
Or
of the past
or of the future.
or of the future. Thinking that, how will I do things?
Yes, then what will future hold for me? I'm supposed to plan this, I'm supposed to plan that. Always living into the future.
When these 2 are renounced, the teachers say that there is a third way of dissipating leakage.
So suppose you manage to control this. Now you've learnt about your mind and how to react to things. You control, okay, you stop thinking about your past and you don't have so much anxiety about your future also. So then yet there is one more way that our energy gets dispelled.
And what is that way? It's over here. The teachers say that there is a third way of dissipating leakage which generally afflicts our administrators. That is the excitement in the present. In the secretariat, you must be noticing that some officers are sitting from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and the peon comes and reminds them, Sir, baal bachcha ghar mein hai. You may not go, but I have to go home.
Working long hours.
The poor officer is seriously doing,
Sincerely.
beg your pardon. The poor officer is sincerely doing work from morning till evening. Yet the general impression about his administrator,
About
of
this
this
administrator.
administrator, is that he is the most inefficient in his department.
And he works from morning to evening, but he's still considered the most inefficient. Why?
Everybody wants to avoid him. Now, if you watch him working, it is a very interesting thing. He is honestly working, no doubt, but he cannot come to any judgment. He looks right, he looks left. Already on the table, the files have piled up on both sides. He is worried about the heap of work. At that time, the peon comes with another bundle of files and asks where it should be kept. Sahib, kutte ठेवायचं है?
Right and left is full already.
By the time the officer takes up the file and tries to work, he sees a red label coming out from a file marked immediate. He is worried about it. So he closes down the file which he has half read. He pulls out the immediate file and starts reading it. By the time he finishes reading it, his mind harks. Harks means he calls it back. His mind goes back to the old file, while the peon has bought another bundle. He is worried, he is dejected, he knows not where to begin. On the other hand, if he has got the idea that it is not one man's show, it is the whole country's administration, and that whatever file he takes up, it is better to close up all other ideas and concentrate upon the file, come to decision and then keep that file away, then at least one is disposed of. If there
So it is a administration of the country which is going on, and all the files are related to matters of the country. Similarly, in a smaller scale or in a different scale, it is the same so with our work or our home also. So whenever you are doing a particular work, our Vedas, our scriptures advise that your mind should be where your hand is. That means what work you have taken up, please concentrate on that and finish it.
if there are 100 files, only 99 are remaining. One by one, if you are taking them without getting excited, then there will be efficiency in the activity itself. Excitement of the present brings out efficiency to zero, and the man's energies are dissipated. There are thus three outlets through which the energies go out: the regrets of the past, the unintelligent anxieties of the future, and the feverish excitement in the present. 3. Past worries, future anxieties, and present excitement. We need to control these three leakages so that the extraordinary positive, the extraordinary energy that you have gained from inspiration doesn't go in waste. Let's go ahead, let's read further. The great acharyas have said that having discovered a great goal, surrender yourself to that goal and act towards it, drawing your inspiration from that goal, and thereby discover a new column of energy. Do not allow this energy to be dissipated in the futile memories of the past, the regrets or failures, or in the imagined sorrows of the future, or in the excitement of the present. Thus, bring that energy focused into activity, focused energy. That is the highest creative action in the world outside. Thereby, the individual who is still now considered most inefficient finds his way to the highest achievement and success. Here I'll take just 30 seconds and explain. Whenever we, in our own experience, have felt great success in whatever activity, whichever activity you may have done, close your mind and go back to that activity and think You were perfectly focused at that time, whichever activity it may have been. This is said very easily in a second. है ना? Do all this, stop the past worry, don't worry about the anxieties of the future, get into the present. This is all said very easily. This is said very easily in a second. But in order to train our mind to this attitude, it needs consistent training, because we have already trained the mind wrongly to such an extent that we have become perfect in imperfections. We have become masters in stupidity. Not knowing the art of action, we have been master artisans. Artisans, beautiful artists, who are artists in many different ways. Artisan in doing wrong things in life, but doing wrong things. We are expert in imperfection. When each individual is doing the wrong thing, the totality of activity will bring the country to a wrong end indeed. So every time that we think, okay, where is our country going? We must look inside and see how many right things that we have done in our lives. The wrong thing should be eliminated from our actions. Only the right conduct should be done.
And collectively, if each one of us is doing something wrong, imagine the whole when it is added up. Obviously, we represent our nation. So how much wrong is the nation doing? So what is the result going to be? So we need to reflect upon this.
If each one is given a card in a socialistic pattern, I'm sure you all know, but
it means about the socialist ideology.
Social ideology means where everyone is treated equally, irrespective whether you are worth it, whether you deserve it or not. If one is supposed to get something, everyone should get. If everyone cannot get, nobody should get.
So this is
the socialistic pattern, in short, the ideology. In the socialistic pattern, and nobody knows driving, but everybody starts driving. What would be the condition on the road? Everybody has equal right on the public road. Then each car must necessarily dash against the other, and there is bound to be a jumble. This seems to be the very pattern of the life that we are heading for. Every one of us is a vehicle, individually. Every one of us is a vehicle. We know how to go forward. The point of intellect is very powerful and everyone is driving, but nobody seems to know how to control the mental energy and direct it properly or guide it to the right destination. The right destination. May I just get your attention very quickly to Gayatri Mantra. Bhargo devasya dhimahi dhyo yo nah prachodayat. Let my intellect be shining bright and guide me to the right direction. Thus, there is too much of chaos in life. Each one contradicts or drives against the other. All of them are intent on reaching a particular goal, but they reach nowhere and only end in disaster and ruin, because they know not how to control their minds, how to regulate their energies and to pour them into activity. When an individual has discovered new energy within himself, has learned the art of stopping the dissipation, has learned the art of fixing the energy, entire energy, to the piece of work in hand, a great joy called the joy of an artisan starts welling up.
In his mind.
Welling up in his mind. There is a full stop which is wrong, it should be not there. The joy of artisan or the artist is the joy that you can understand only when you experience it. An artisan or a worker working in the world outside and creating out of his work something new, maybe a toy, maybe a great instrument of precision. It does not matter what he is producing. His is the joy of having created something in the world.
I'm sure in some ways we've all experienced it.
No doubt, to a large extent. the mechanization of life in this machine age has robbed us of that joy that the artisan of the past had. In those days, when they made an article of furniture or a piece of sculpture or painted a scene, they had great joy that they did something creative. But nowadays, the work is so much divided because of the mechanical intervention that the man has been looted of his joy of creativity. It is because a blind, dead iron monster called the engine is producing everything. Furniture is produced by machinery. Painting is replaced by photography, wherein the photographer has no joy of having produced it. All his joy is that he has adjusted the camera properly. Even when I find a good photo, I am not congratulating the photographer. I ask him what kind of camera he has used. The photographer comes and says that he has got a prize in the exhibition. We would not ask him what his techniques are. We only ask him what camera is he using and what kind of filters, etc. The glory of the prize is for the camera. But you, being more intelligent than the camera, put your hand forward and got the prize. But in fact, the camera should have got the prize because you have done nothing. Thus, everywhere, in everything that we produce, we have no self-congratulation at this moment because we produce nothing. The machine produces and we only attend to the machine that produces. To that extent, no doubt the life and the joy of creation has gone away from our life. It is so true even today. In fact, today it has become one step further. Everything is on our fingertips. Even the fan, even the video, everything is running on remote control. The car gets cooled from home. And very shortly, cars are going to be driven on their own. Everything machines are going to take over, which is called AI, artificial intelligence.
In some ways, our thinking power and thinking process is becoming lesser and lesser. And this is something we have to be careful about.
What Gurudev is pointing is because everything is done by something else, the joy of doing is not there. It has been robbed from us. But still, he is not a pessimistic. Remember, a true Vedanti has no right ever to be a pessimistic. He has to always be optimistic. These are not my words. This is Gurudev's words only.
So let's try out.
So let's see what he says further. But if we turn our attitude to a different angle, certainly, even today, that joy of having done the right thing in the right way can be had. If only we know how to turn your लिखा हुआ है इधर our होना चाहिए, our vision in the right direction. How to turn our vision in the right direction. For example, I am given, beg your pardon. For example, I am given a piece of work, say typing, which is considered to be the most dreary work. If the typist executes his work neatly without overtyping or mistake, he has his dividend of joy of having done something good.
So even if it is something as mundane as typing, when it is done correctly and perfectly, the person doing it feels that sense of satisfaction, that joy in having done work well.
Here I will like to share something very, very personal. My teachers would be turning in their grave that Jagdish Brahmta is reading live. You know why? Because I was born with a deficiency called dyslexia. And in that, two things I am suffering from. One is I am colorblind. And second thing, I can't read sentences because the words jump forward and back in front of my eyes. But it is all grace of my wife. In the last 30 years that we've been together, she has brought me out from that person who could not utter a word to this person who is able to read to you all in Tuta-Futa English.
It is always the question, not of the Bible. Honestly, it is the question of your own hard work and your focus.
Therefore, Gurudev says, we can discover our joy in the precision and perfection of work that we turn out. how you look at work, how you turn out your work, that is the joy of today. I'll read that beautiful, it is brilliant. We can discover our joy in the precision and perfection of the work that we turn out. Whether others recognize it or not, we have got the satisfaction that we did our work as best as we could, and there is a silent stream of joy that sings a secret song at all times in your heart. As a contrast to the clerk disappointed and disgusted in the town, the great farmer working in the field is happy only because of the silent song of congratulations in his own mind.
This is with reference to the earlier example that we've seen, that how the town clerk was complaining constantly while the farmer who was working so much more in his field was feeling joy.
Today, in the modern world, whether it is in India or in the US, the mental distraction and dissipation is so much that even though physically we may say that they are well provided and happy, there is no happiness known to them. If you want to seek happiness through action, you must be able to discover this secret core of activity, this core of source of joy within ourselves. And if we can play upon these chords of musical beauty, then we can have the song of joy within ourselves, the joy that is in all achievements. Thus, to sum up, according to the great acharyas, action can be good only when the actor, the individual, has got a great purpose or goal. First aspect. Having gained that goal or the ideal for which we have concentrated all our education, whether it be political or economical ideal, an ideal that you have chosen according to your own heart. It is not an ideal that somebody has given you, but that which is appealing to your most, appealing to you most. Then a new enthusiasm comes to you. And when there is enthusiasm, then sincerity, ardor, and consistency of purpose automatically follows.
Ardor means passion only. Yeah?
The second aspect is as important as the first. Where there is no enthusiasm or inspiration, consistency of purpose can never be. I repeat that again. Where there is no enthusiasm or inspiration, consistency of purpose can never be. This is the biggest fact. If anybody ever tells you I am bored, or anybody tells I can't do something, it is because there is no passion and there is no enthusiasm and there is no inspiration in that person. Thus, once you have got the goal, something higher than yourself, your wife, your children, your worldly comfort, etc., if there is a social vision or a national vision that moves us forward, we discover within ourselves a new source of energy. And if this energy is not dissipated with the past memories, the future anxieties, or the present excitement, that is to say, if these three holes through which all the mental energy is leaking are blocked properly, the entire energy that we discovered within ourselves is available for focusing into the various activities that we are doing in the world. Activity is not performed merely by hand. Where we are working with the hand, our heart and head also must be used. Thus, when the hand is working, if the head and the heart are present, there comes the artisan's perfection. All such artists who have been able to work putting their head and heart where the hands are working have discovered the joy of a samadhi, a joy of religious ecstasy, because where the physical, mental, and intellectual personalities become integrated, the individual is nearer to perfection, nearer to the actual experience of welling joy from within. And in that atmosphere of joy, the individual is capable of working.
Today we are seeing that how to not allow our energies to dissipate. We would like to complete this chapter today. So for our 40th session, we request you for a little more time and we will complete this chapter for today. So kindly come along for the journey with us. Any one of you who has got a hobby can very easily understand this. When a man has got a hobby, he is working on it. Hobby means an activity of the hand and the legs, wherein your head and heart is concurring, something you enjoy. When the hand is doing something, wherein the head and the heart are also present, as in gardening, beautiful hobby. The man says that it is a recreation for him. Another man says playing cricket from morning till evening is a recreation for him. Sports people love doing that. Yet another man playing tennis or football and sweating like hell says it is recreation. Now imagine they are sweating, they are tired utterly, but for them it is recreation. So if you are asked to sweat that much for doing a work for your neighbor, you say it is musibat. But in spite of the amount of energy and perspiration spent in the tennis court or a football ground, you come away saying you feel lovely. So what is the goal? What is the intent? What is the inspiration? The tennis player not only puts his physical effort but also his head and heart while playing tennis. He has for some time been forgotten all distractions of his mind, either of the past or of the future or of the present. He is pouring himself into the sport and yet he feels like a revived, rejuvenated young man. Similarly, from morning till evening, if we could have spent all our energies outside with our hands and legs, but if only we know the art of bringing our head and heart to the field where we are working with the hand, then we would have discovered that the longer the hours we put in, the greater is the exhilaration and joy. Really speaking, this is a wondrous joy.
Indeed. The so-called joy that you get from cinema is no joy at all. On a Sunday, from 12 o'clock, you are standing in the queue to get a ticket and the queue is long. You cannot expect a shamiana, a cover on the top. All remember, Gurudev is speaking of 1960s. All over the place, shamiana all over the place to shelter the queue. Therefore, you stand in the hot sun and you ask anybody going along for a Coca-Cola so that you may not run the risk of losing your place in the queue. Standing there, perspiring, sweating, hungry, you at last get a ticket. This is supposed to be excitement. You are very happy with that ticket. You go inside and in the theatre you are supposed to find your very great excitement because you are going to have your enjoyment. You go and sit down, but your mind is worried. Your physical body is in the theatre, is supposed to be enjoying the picture, but 1,000 worries are there. Tomorrow's problem and yesterday's regrets. When you come away from the theatre, you say the picture was very bad. The other fellow says, "What are you talking, fool? A very wonderful picture it is." So now you have two opinions.
The person who was free enjoyed the picture while you, even while watching the picture, was worried so much that you didn't like the picture.
You swallow the words and walk home and then you feel that the picture after all is no good at all. Thus, nowhere do you find enjoyment because your mind is not at rest. The real enjoyment is in the activity where your head and your heart come in. When they can come in together, where your mind and your heart is together, your hands work, that is the real joy.
When you're concentrated, you're focused, you have complete one vision.
This activity you may find very exerting, boring and unhappy, but another individual enjoys it vigorously. This is especially so in picnics. You know, picnics में क्या होता है? Somebody enjoys and somebody does not enjoy going to picnic at all. In the summer vacations, the South Indian boys go to the north for a holiday. They get down at Agra and walk along the roads, which appear deserted during the midday. The people of Agra are afraid of sunstroke. They are afraid that even when they open the window, they might get sunstroke. When they look out, they see these miraculous people called the South Indians walking without any protection. How is it they are walking in the sun? They ask. They close their windows with the assumption that the South India is probably hotter and therefore these boys are walking as if it were comfortable. But the poor South Indian do not know that it is too hot. They are living in a realm of their own. Now comes the important part. They have come to Agra to enjoy, and they know that however uncomfortable it is comfort for them because they have got a purpose to enjoy the holiday for which they have come. The purpose is enjoyment. Thus, moving on picnic in the hottest sun, eating any food, sleeping in a railway station, catching any train, and the suffering in many ways, they enjoy it all. For their heads and their hearts are where their physical bodies are moving.
We all will remember our college times.
After he has reached the South Indian, after he has reached South India, if his old grandfather were to ask him to get a pan from the street corner, the boy will complain that the sun is too hot. He has explained about the beetle net here. He forgets that when the thermometer was standing 114 degree Fahrenheit,
that is around 45 to 46 degrees.
In Agra, he was walking 5 miles. He was walking 5 miles on a tarred road of Agra, but enjoying all the time. And here the thermometer is standing 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be
around 26-27 degrees Celsius
in the south of India. And he does not want to go out to bring the pan for the old man because his head and heart are not there, and therefore he feels miserable. As simple as that.
So when he's enjoying himself, 45-46 degrees
is no problem. You and I feel disappointed and dejected in life, not because there is no work in the world. We are not discovering for ourselves a work wherein not only the physical body but our head and heart can also be bought in. And he who can bring all these three aspects of personality in a field of activity works on in an inspired manner. Inspired work not only brings out high production in his efficiency but also gives a great dividend of joy to the worker himself. To work thus seems to be the very art of living that has been described in the Vedas, especially in the Gita. This method of activity in the world outside as a solution for the problem of man has been explained in the Gita in its own language. In the modern vocabulary, I have explained to you that first we should discover a goal to draw inspiration from and stop all wastages of that inspiration in unintelligent regrets of the past or in equally unintelligent imaginations of the future or in the excitement of the present. Thus, if we work on in the world with the head and the heart where the hand is working, the very work gains the stamp of efficiency and speed, and the joy of work is yours. Om.
With this, we complete chapter number 30, the third part also. So Gurudev's lecture is completed here. And it is clearly mentioned that the Vedas are the source of all inspiration. They tell us how to lead our lives. And amongst them, Shri Krishna's message in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is considered as the manual of life. And it tells us very nicely how our life should be led.
In principle, Kindle Life, the message of Kindle Life is here. Tomorrow, the last day of our reading, it's an interaction between some people with Gurudev, and then finally Gurudev's word.
So we will see the last chapters tomorrow, and that will be our last day of Kindle Live reading. So let us end this beautiful session with this.
With great gratitude to Bhagwan and to Gurudev. Om Asito Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamrutam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Guru Harihi